Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Welcome to the Sunday chat, about which I haven't even decided yet. We'll make it up as we go along. Right, obviously we're coming up to the Christmas and New Year time of year where most people have got their own things to do and probably aren't going to spend that much time watching YouTube and have other things to do. But I do always bear in mind that there are people that may well be on their own during those periods. And to get a bit of Christmas cheer from the likes of YouTube is not a bad thing. Not a bad thing at all. So I will try and get something over the period. Not guaranteeing a lot, but something. And yeah, so as it's the Sunday chat, I wish all of you a Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays if you don't celebrate it as such. I don't really. I do a bit, but I don't do the whole thing. Yeah, some people go overboard, some people do nothing at all and just have quiet time at home with family or whatever, with friends. Yeah, there's lots of different ways of handling this holiday period. And it's worth just sparing a thought for those that don't get a holiday. All of our hospital staff, ambulance staff, police, armed forces, fire brigade, yeah? All of those services, all of those people that keep our TV programmes going. And all of those creators that put some videos up on YouTube for us. It's a form of work at the end of the day. I'm working now. I haven't got a hard hat on or anything like that, but this is my work as such. So spare a thought for all of those who will be working during the holiday period, because somebody's got to do that work and it's their job. I'm sure they don't do it reluctantly, because when they took the job on they knew that's what they'd be doing. But, those are the people that annoy me. People who know what the job's all about, they know what the pay is, they know what the hours are, they know what it entails, they know all that, and then they take the job and forever moan about it. Silly people. If you knew what it's like and you weren't going to like it, perhaps you'd think about doing something else. Anyway, spare a thought for those who look after us and keep us safe and all that sort of stuff. Obviously a big deal in Australia, which would have gone worldwide on the news, I'm sure. It's been on the news for days here. And it was a big deal. I mean, I have a view on that, because the community that was attacked as such had done nothing wrong, living peacefully in a country that's nothing to do with the cause of the attack, because the cause of the attack is one person in another country that's killed thousands and thousands and thousands of people. That's what caused the attack. It's like a revenge thing, it's like an anger thing. That has all got to try and stop somehow. Because it's innocence, isn't it? Just because you follow a religion doesn't necessarily mean you support a particular country. I mean, lots of religions have a basis, don't they? They have a country that they sort of instigate from, shall we say. You know, it's like Buddhism, I think. Is that India? Or I don't know much about it all, because I'm not one of those people. But you know what I mean. Some religions have a basis, like the Roman Catholics, their basis is in Rome. Yeah? So you see what I'm getting at. So they have a country that the religion is associated with. But just because somebody follows a religion doesn't mean they associate with that country. And that is what needs to stop. The ignorant and the less intelligent, who can't differentiate between being Jewish and following a Jewish religion and being Israeli, which is a nationality. There is a difference. Some are one in the same, fair enough, but not all. You need to differentiate, sort it out. And not all people from a certain country would be that way. But summit's got to flipping change, because there's too many individuals or small groups of people that run countries that cause chaos all over the place. So, well, there's an easy way round that, isn't there? Take them out. Is that instigating violence or actually solving a problem? Who knows? I've got little red dots appearing on my front. Those were the days. But it's not a peaceful world, and it would be nice if it was. And it would be nice if we had some peace over this period. But we won't. No. There are two countries that will carry on killing, bombing, murdering, if you want to look at it like that. They'll carry on, they won't care. And the individuals that are actually giving the orders as such, they'll have a nice peaceful time, I bet. With their families. But all the people on the end of their instructions won't, will they? They'll have a hard time. So it's not a peaceful world, but it could be. It could be. Who was it? John Lennon, wasn't it? Yeah. Came up with an idea that would solve an awful lot of problems, but not all of them, unfortunately. It would solve some. Anyway, back to the Sunday chat. We in this country have a Prime Minister whose eyes are on the world stage and being a performer on that world stage. He forgets to look over his shoulder. He's supposed to be the Prime Minister of this country, and a lot of what is going on in this country is just fundamentally wrong. Again, it's an individual or a group surrounding an individual that's causing chaos all over the flipping place. And there will be people huddled in a corner with their dressing gowns and all their warm clothes with a duvet wrapped round them for Christmas because they can't afford to put the heating on. This is in what is supposed to be one of the westernised worlds and one of the top 5 or 6 most wealthy. You know, we've got people sitting around freezing because they can't put the heating on. You can't afford to eat properly. Yeah? Something wrong somewhere. Somebody's got all the money, and it's not me. So, makes you wonder, doesn't it? Still, you get what you vote for. Actually, you don't. Not in this country. You vote for a set of ideals and promises, and for the people who purport those and go out. And you elect them. And what do they then do? Next to none of what they promised, and hardly any of their ideals stand up. You voted for them. I don't vote, it just encourages them. I don't vote because I can't pick out somebody who I think would do a good job. I can possibly think that one would possibly do a bit better job than that one's going to do a terrible job, but that's not good enough for me. I want somebody who can really, really get up there and make a difference. And I can't see that person. I have an inkling there could be one, and things could change. But yeah, I mean, you've got it's sad, but it's comical. There are local elections in this country coming up supposedly next May. This party are frightened to death of losing loads of seats, so they've cancelled a lot of them. Cowardice. Sneaky, backhanded cowardice. If you can't stand up for your ideals and your party, because you've got a massive vote to get in, and if you can't stand up for that, then I don't think you should be there. But that's another form of cheating, isn't it? Yeah. Still, there's a lot of that goes on. However, some of us grow some orchids, and I'm sure quite a lot of people watching grow some orchids. Anything from a couple on a windowsill to a huge big greenhouse full, or if you're lucky enough to grow outside, loads of them hanging off the trees and the fences, yeah, and gantries and stuff. So there's loads of different ways to grow orchids, and no one of them's right, no one of them's wrong. They're all a way of doing it. And you have to, the art of growing orchids well, I believe, is finding the way that works for you. Because that may be different to lots of other people's way. And if you have no way, because you're relatively new, then the best thing is to find somebody on YouTube or something like that that has an environment incredibly similar to you. So that was one of my little friends outside. Yes, it's somebody that's got an environment that's similar to you. Now, obviously there's a difference between Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere. For instance, today is the winter solstice, so it's the day with the shortest amount of daylight. The other side of the world, it's the longest amount of daylight. It's their summer solstice. Yeah? So that doesn't mean to say they've got a totally different environment, they've just got different seasons. Winter is still winter, summer is still summer. It's just a bit, you know, back to front, so to speak. But yeah, find somebody that's got a similar environment to you, and in addition to that, hopefully grow similar orchids to what you want to grow. And then you've at least got a starting point to copy, especially if it's working. If that person's growing well, you know, and isn't throwing out loads and loads of orchids every week because they're all dying and having to buy loads of new ones, there are people that have to work like that because they can't get it right yet. Hopefully they will. Hopefully eventually. I was lucky at the other end when I was starting to build a collection. I didn't have many losses at all. And I didn't have a very good environment. It was windowsills and my dining room table and stuff like that, and plants dotted around and in-house, and that's what I had, and I didn't lose many orchids at all. They all did okay. And then I decided to convert my conservatory, this is around the old place, yeah, and actually turn it into a grow room and have lots more orchids and have an environment that was much more suitable. Then I started losing some. There's no easy answer, is there? You just have to go with it and do the best you can. Now I've just had a watering session. I watered all of my normal pots yesterday, which is the majority of the orchids in here, and today I watered my cooler, shadier lot. So the only thing that now hasn't been watered are the cymbidiums, and I will do those either tomorrow or Tuesday, because what I want is everything watered so that I haven't got to water anything over this holiday period, because I'm going anywhere between 8 and 12 days, depending on temperatures, between waterings. So by clustering them up together like that, some got watered a little bit early, some got left a bit longer than perhaps they should have been. But now I haven't got to water anything major once I've got the cymbidiums out of the way. So that was planned for. Yeah, literally 6-7 weeks ago I started thinking about the gaps between the watering, so that I'd end up with the watering on this weekend being the last thing I really needed to do until after the following weekend, because that's how long it'll be. Apart from the mounts, the mounted orchids will get pulled in. There's not that many of them. I mean, actually in total 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 mounted orchids. But some of them are effectively winter resting, so they don't get watered hardly at all. And they don't get involved with any feed runs. They only get done when there's a flushing going on and they get a trickle perhaps. And there's some that have got a fair bit of moss that take quite a long time to dry this time of year, so they don't get watered that often. Not very often at all. I suppose the ones that get watered most frequently are the newly mounted Restrepias. One of which I said when I mounted it, I don't think this one's going to make it. I'll say it again, I don't think that one's going to make it. It's got 3 green leaves left on it and lots have fallen off. So it's not happy. But we shall see, you know. It's, again, I've seen somebody else who's done really well with mounted Restrepias, but they have a better environment for them than I have. Because this time of year, so that I get a raise in temperature during the day out here, because I've got the heating on to keep me and Mojo warm, I have this door open a bit. Well, that lets warm air out here, keeps my daytime temperature higher than the night without using this expensive heater down here. But it's drier air, so my humidity is not that high during the day. It builds up a bit overnight because obviously the temperature drops down. But even then, you know, it's an electric fan heater, so that has a drying effect. But there's enough moisture in here that if I didn't do anything about it, it would be too much and I'd start getting rotting. And I do get a bit of that now and again. I watered, what did I water behind me? This pot of grass. It's actually a Miltoniopsis species. And I took about 8 leaves off of that today that were rotting at the base. Yeah? So I can still get too much moisture, even for a moisture loving plant. So yeah. No environment is going to be perfect for all your orchids, not even in the same genus. You know, if you had 10 Cattleya species, for instance, you would have an environment suitable for all of them, but it wouldn't be perfect for all of them. It would be perfect for some, or maybe only one, or maybe none. But you know what I mean. Each orchid has its own specific needs, and that's, I think, the art of growing, is actually getting them as close to that as you can. You may not be able to hit it spot on, you get as close as you can. And in the main, and there are enough orchids around that have a tolerance that's wide enough to put up with not being in a perfect environment, as long as it's reasonably close. Some are more fussy than others. Some are not that fussy at all. I don't believe Cymbidiums are that fussy. They don't seem to need high humidity, they don't seem to need loads of airflow, they still seem to do okay without it. They don't mind drying out. They put up with bright light, they can put up with less light than that and still manage to bloom. Well, hybrids, I'm not sure about species. I haven't actually got any Cymbidium species, come to think of it, they're all hybrids. But, hang on. No, they're all hybrids, not one species. And that's probably the only type of orchid that I have no species. Thinking about it. Yeah, I suppose in the main, Deisas, oh actually, no. I lost a few Deisa species I had, so I have only got hybrids now in the Deisas, but I've only got 3 different types anyway. And they are hybrids. Just looking round, Dendrobiums, I've got species. I've probably got as many species as I have hybrids in the different categories. Paphiopedilums, I've got species there, as well as hybrids. Masdevallias, species and hybrids. Restrepias, species and hybrids. Cattleyas. Laelia anceps back here, that's a species. There's Zygopetalum, so I've got 1 species, 2 hybrids. I've only got 3. If I see good plants, I will get more because I love those. But often the plants you see they're not very strong. They don't look up to it. What else? Just going around. The odont types, I've got. No, they're all hybrids. The odonts. And moving into the oncidiums as well. I think I've got 1 or 2 species oncidiums, but certainly not many. Those are mostly hybrids as well. So, yeah, it's a bit of a mix. I mean, I know people at the Orchid Society, if it's not a species, it's not a proper orchid. They won't have hybrids. They only have species. That's a way of, growing them. I suppose in a way, if you've got a species, you will find a reasonable amount of information about where it comes from and how it grows and its environment in the wild that it likes, because it is a species, so it is in the wild. You can look this stuff up. So you may have a better chance actually of getting your environment close to the needs of the actual species. But you've got a problem that, generally speaking, the species are not as easy to grow because they're more fussy. The hybrids seem to have, well, it's called hybrid vigour that some have got, not all, but some have got. And it just makes them a stronger plant, therefore more tolerant of deviation from that perfection, that perfect environment. Yeah, I suppose if you said why do people lose orchids, most of the time it will be an environment that's not close enough to that perfect environment for that plant, and it's too far away, so the plant very steadily goes downhill until it gets to the point where it's just too weak to carry on, and then it does the nosedive, or a lot of them do. That will be reason one. And the other reason, the most common reason, and there's still people doing it because they won't have it, it's too wet. Too wet when the days are short and the temperatures are lower. They won't have it. You rot the roots, and sometimes that rot will get into the base of the bulbs or canes, and the cane just rots off at the base, and that takes out the base of the plant, so that's the plant lost. So too much water will kill orchids, and by too much it means there's water hanging around the plant that it's not using. That's really what it comes down to. It's not using it. It's not using it possibly because it's just not growing. Now, I've said it many times before, if a plant's not growing, what's it going to do with all the water you keep pouring in and the feed? Because if it's not growing, what's the feed for? You know, it's effectively not growing. I mean, you even get things like vigorous plants, like oncidiums, that have a period where nothing's happening. There's no new roots forming, there's no flower spikes growing, and there's no new growths. The growths that you've got have matured. It's doing nothing. It doesn't need feed, and it doesn't need loads of water. When it comes back into growth again, that's when you can start that build-up. And that's often difficult to do. That's difficult for me to do because when I water, like if I water my normal pots as I call them, they all get watered. They got two choices. They get some or they don't. Now I do vary because I can give them a little bit. Sometimes there's a pot that's got a new growth that's just got a few new roots coming out. And I'll just water that tiny little bit of the pot. I'll just put a trickle down where those new roots are. The rest of the pot stays dry. Because if I wet that, what's in it is probably going to rot. You've got to go very careful. Yeah, I would say that watering is probably the most difficult to master, so that you trust yourself that you're doing the right thing with all your plants in all the different size pots, possibly with different media and different growing conditions, i.e. growing vigorously, not growing at all, winter dormancy. There's all these things you've got to cater for. And even a phalaenopsis will have a period where it's doing nothing. In fact, sometimes they have quite a long period of doing nothing. Well, they don't want to be soaking wet all the time then, you know. And don't, in my opinion, if something comes from a cloud forest, yeah, it's a cool grower, comes from a cloud forest, constant moisture, often drizzly, foggy, misty, everything's dripping wet around it like that, those sort of plants don't tend to like drying out, but they can get close to dryness, yeah, preferably not bone dry, you know, the roots will probably shrivel and the plant will probably die. But, you know, if they don't come from that environment, the chances are they have periods of dryness naturally. Because there are places where orchids grow where during the growing season it rains every day, so they say. Does it really? Does it really rain every single day? These are hot places in the main. This is monsoon type conditions, Philippines and, you know, that sort of central hot belt round there. Does it really rain every day, or does it rain most days? Is it in the people's mind? It's like they say in Spain, oh, it's sunny every day in Spain. No, it's not. It's sunny most of the days, but it's not every day. So maybe there are days, and if it's warm and you've got airflow and it doesn't rain, those plants are going to get quite dry quite quickly because it's their growing season. They're in active growth. So don't be afraid to let your plants err on the drier side, unless they're cloud forest dwellers. And most people who are growing in the home don't go down that road of cloud forest dwellers because they can't do the humidity bit. They haven't got the ability to do the humidity, unless you want mould on your curtains and your carpets. So yeah, and that is the thing that stumps a lot of people, is actually balancing the humidity with the temperatures. I mean, if your growing area is heading up towards 30 degrees or even plus, 30 plus, then you need some humidity because that air can get incredibly dry. And lots of things like oncidiums, Miltoniopsis, they've got very thin leaves and they're geared up to moisture coming in from the base, an amount of moisture around them so that the water coming up through the plant can evaporate out of the leaves, that normal process that all plants do, without them losing humidity such that the leaves are drying out. Yeah, so it's a balance between the natural process and the humidity in the air. The higher the temperature, the more that humidity in the air has to be there. In here, I mean, what is it now? It's about 16, maybe 17 degrees in here. That's my daytime temperature this time of year. There's no sun. Where's the heat going to come from? It's not warm outside. It's probably only about 10, 12 degrees out there. Ish. It's a guess. It's still all damp out there. It's certainly not freezing or that cold or anything. But yeah, at this temperature, 50–60% humidity is more than enough. You don't need any more. In actual fact, I have a dehumidifier to make sure I don't get the humidity too high. Having just watered virtually everything in here, pots, mounts and everything like that, the evaporation rate during the day, as the temperature rises, increases. That increases the humidity, yeah? And if it gets too high, when the temperature drops down again at night, it's going to possibly cause some rot. So you don't want it too high. And it's something that often gets forgotten, especially in people that do run really cold. I was just trying to think, Lynn's Masdevallia and Dracula house, which is a separate greenhouse to a main one. Because she's got a warm section and an intermediate section, then a separate place for the real cool growers. And I think she lets that get down to sort of 7–8 degrees and then chucks a heater on, thermostatic heater to stop it getting any lower than that. The humidity in there must be incredibly high. It certainly doesn't need any added to it, I'm sure. And then that's where you get environmental issues, like for instance, if you have capillary matting, to raise the humidity in your summer months when you'd rather it didn't get warm in your cool house and this, that and the other, and it's still wet in the winter, you're chucking up humidity around plants that really don't need it, not at those low temperatures. That will be a good time to let that completely dry out and just water the plants as and when they need it. But, controlling the environment is a big deal. And it takes a while for it to settle down in your place and become just a habit where you don't have to think about it. Yeah? So this time of year I know I need my dehumidifier because I've used it over the last couple of years and it does the job. I know that once we get to the warmer weather and that old sun starts to creep up the roof and gets a bit more warmth in here, I'm going to need a humidifier to put some extra humidity in, and the dehumidifier can go away until mid-autumn next year. So it's become a pattern, and I keep notes of these things. In my orchid notes at the bottom I have a section on kit and environment. And it'll say things like when the Decas came in, when they were bought in from outside. So I've got a rough guideline of the date. I have to get the traps out again. But, oh yeah, talking of that. Was it yesterday? What was today? Sunday, yesterday, Saturday. No, it was Friday. Friday morning, I came out here, I opened the door and let Mojo out to follow him out, and then opened that door to let him out in the garden. And as he came through the door, he absolutely froze rigid, staring over there like that. And as I came through the door, there was a fox. Just here, literally. And the fox had seen Mojo, Mojo had seen the fox, and they'd both done the, freeze, staring at each other like that. And of course it messed it up when I came out the door, the fox bolted. And Mojo trotted over the door to be let out, and the fox bolted over behind the shed and up over the fence somewhere. And Mojo went all round over there and had a good sniff round and a look round, so he's checking out, I presume, that it had gone. I don't know what he thought he was going to do if he caught up with it. But yeah, a fox in the garden. Now that might not be a first, but it's the first I've seen. And it was a smashing fox, because town foxes can get really manky. Get a lot of mange and bits of fur falling out and scabby bits. They're not very attractive creatures at all. But this was a bright, bushy-tailed, lovely looking fox. Absolutely smashing. But as I said, it must have done a bit of a high jump to get in here. There isn't any way to get in here without coming over the top of a fence, basically. So it must have come over the top of a fence. But yeah, which is a fair old jump. But I mean, you often find them asleep. If there's a shed with an overhanging tree, they'll often sleep on there in somebody's garden during the daytime. But anyway. Yeah, full-grown fox in the garden, so that was a novelty, to say the least, and interesting. Now the bird feeders, the other wildlife in the garden, are still only just ticking over. They've got blue tits and great tits and a pair of cold tits that they flit in and out, on and off all day long. There's not a huge number of them. I would suspect there's 3, maybe 4 blue tits, 3, maybe 4 great tits and a pair of cold tits. There's a pair of nuthatches come in, occasionally both at the same time. That's how I know there was a pair. Now back in the week there was a great spotted woodpecker came in. It hasn't been back. And once this winter a little group of goldfinches came in. They didn't land on the feeders, they were in the garden. and a couple of them landed on top of the bird table, but they didn't use the feeders, so they didn't equate this area with having some good food for them. Because the sunflower hearts are really good, you know, they're seed eaters, finches. But yeah, they haven't been back. Long-tailed tits come around now and again, but they're more on the bonsai trees and around the bushes rather than on the feeders. So I haven't really got, you know, a good uptake on using the feeders yet. In fact, it's very similar to last year. You know, blue tits, great tits, cold tits, nuthatches. The robin's out there. He's being a bully, the one I've got this year. It's probably not the same one as last year. Keeps chasing the others off. But they've got so used to him because he's not an acrobat like some of the smaller birds. He flies at them to frighten them off, and they just go round and come round behind him and land again. So they're not taking a great deal of notice. And there's a pair of chaffinches come down, but they feed on the ground. The male has managed to work out that he can actually land on the feeder, you know, the little feet that stick out, and actually peck some seeds, but he hasn't got the balance to be able to stay there, so he manages to get a couple of seeds and then goes down on the floor again. A couple of blackbirds around. There was a song thrush out in the garden the other day under the feeder, but again, ground feeders, not using the feeders. So and there's a wren comes in the garden now and again, and one, and only once, literally just outside here on the bonsai just outside there was a goldcrest, which on my official measurements is our smallest bird because it weighs the least. It is the smallest bird, but the RSPB that do the bird's stuff, their way of measuring a bird's size is from the tip of the beak, over the head, down the back to the tip of the tail. So they say the wren is our smallest bird because it's only got a little short stubby tail. But in actual fact, a goldcrest and a firecrest are smaller than a wren in body size and weight. But they've got longer tails, so they don't count apparently. But yeah, that goldcrest just outside. Good. When I first moved in, that first winter, when the big tree was still up there and still alive, there were goldcrests around that year, but I didn't see them after that, and that's the first one I've seen this year. Just once, just one view, then gone and not come back. So yeah, so we've had a bit of a variety, but still not a huge number really. There was a flock of starlings came in, well, probably just a family, you know, just sort of 6, may have been 7. But they sort of descended on the bird table, but I'm not actually putting any food on the table itself this year. It gets mouldy and it gets stale because the rain blows in and gets it wet, and obviously that's not good for the birds. And most of the birds that I'd rather have on the bird table use the feeders. They're capable of hanging and doing their thing, sort of thing. So yeah, I'm not bothering with that. But that's what would have kept the starlings interested, because they're a bit too heavy on the feeders and they don't balance so good. So yeah. But yeah, at least I've got birds around, except for when it's raining. When it's raining, the birds are just sheltering somewhere, you know, in dense undergrowth somewhere, so they don't get too wet. Because this time of year, if they get too wet, they chill as well, you know. And if they're not stocked up on good energy type food, then it can actually be their downfall. They get wet and cold, you know. It's not good. Like our orchids, most of them don't like wet and cold. I don't like wet and cold. I don't like wet, full stop. And I must admit, if I've got to go out, I would rather freezing cold weather with bright sunshine than horrible, miserable, misty, dull, drizzly weather. You can dress up against the cold, you can put on warm clothes, you can dress up, and it's actually almost invigorating, I suppose you could say. Whereas wet and miserable, you know, okay, you can put your waterproofs on, but when you come home they're soaking wet. You've got to put them somewhere to dry. I just don't like getting wet. I stay in when it's raining. I try to do my best not to have to go out at all. I look out the window and think, that's out there, I'm in here. We like it like that. So that's that. Yeah, so as far as the workload out here is concerned, it's minimal. And it's going to stay like that probably well out into January. As I said, it's the winter solstice today, so this is the day with the least amount of daylight. It's not the shortest day, all the days are the same length. We'll stop saying that. So it's the shortest amount of daylight, which means that daylight period is now going to start getting longer, but you're not really going to notice the difference for 4 or 5 weeks. And in the UK, those 4 or 5 weeks tend to be our dull weather, you know, so you really don't notice the difference. But get out into February, sort of mid-February, and it starts to show, you know, lighter mornings, stays light a bit longer in the evenings. You suddenly find you're having your evening meal in the daylight instead of in the dark and all that sort of stuff. And then we look forward to spring, and we look forward to growing again. It just goes round in full circle, you know. It's the same thing, honestly. Potentially it's boring because it's repeat, you know. Get something that works on an annual basis and repeat. And that makes your life easy, doesn't it? Why make stuff hard? Why make life difficult? Now, I'm going to have a think between now and the next Sunday chat, which will be the last one of the year, on the grounds of what changes am I going to do for next year. And there might not be any. Can I think of a new genus and start potentially a new collection? Or should I just add to the ones that are working well and leave it at that? Because obviously I'll be going to some shows, there'll be some orchids for sale at the shows. What do? Look out for different ones that are doing well already and just increase that collection, or look for new things to grow, you know. So I've got that decision to make. But I'm also thinking of rearranging this room because it would be nice if my workbench, which is utilising space that I didn't think was any good for growing, there's nothing wrong with that space over there, and it will never get sun. So more shadier plants could grow there instead of just having a workbench. The workbench has got to go somewhere. If it doesn't go there, then it goes there, and the watering thing comes round here. But round here is where all the electrics are, so I'd rather the watering stayed over there out of the way. Otherwise we might be going when we're pouring the water out. But what about putting the workbench back over here where it used to be, along here? That would give me a much better view of all of this section of the garden, which this coming year will have the planted border, it'll have a couple of the bonsai stands, and the bird feeders not all through the summer, but you know, into good spring. And it would mean when I'm working on my bench, I'd be looking over the nicer part of the garden. You know, once all the things come back into growth and we've got stuff in flower and that. So that workbench there is a good idea. To put it there, these two shelves have got to move. Well, why can't they come over here then? Because if my workbench and my watering table are here, then that corner is completely free. Now, these are not big shelves. I mean, this is a tall shelf. That's a point. The tall shelf, there's a light over there hanging off the wall. You know, these coleogenes would be up in the light would be in amongst them. But yeah, well, the taller one can go here, the shorter one can go under the light. But those two shelves would easily go in this corner, and plants that are on them would be okay in that corner. So I might do that. The other thing that's got to happen out here is we've got to have a clean up, because the windows are starting to get pretty dirty inside as well as outside, and we're starting to get the black mould again on the I won't call it paintwork, on the plastic, the actual framework sort of thing. And the floor could do with a wash as well. So that's a job to do that Hannah will help me with one weekend when she's down, heading towards spring, you know, possibly February time, where what we do is, because the shelves are all in those little drip trays, they slide on this floor very easily and don't mark it. So basically we pull all the staging out from one side, do the windows, have a clean up, do that bit of the floor, put that bit of staging back, move round to another section, and we can do the whole thing relatively easily. Now obviously the hardest bit is cleaning the roof off. That will need to be done, but like I said, there was no point in trying to do that until all those leaves were down off that oak tree, which they now are. So clearing the leaves up is a big deal. We've got to get them all off the roof and the moss and everything. Give the gutters a bit of a clean, otherwise they'll all overflow all over the place. Yeah, I mean, I did that last year okay, off the steps with I did it with the broom and the hose last year. So that's got to be done, and the leaf blower to blow all the leaves out of the garden. Most of the ones around here go up the alleyway, up the end. It's just a dead end that's of no use, just the bit behind the carport basically. So I just blast them up there, and then all the leaves through that entrance in that part of the garden all get blasted up underneath the bamboo, and that's Mojo's bed in the sun for when the sun starts coming round again. Yeah, so same as last year. Don't have to think all these things now, they're repeats. As I say, I've been here 4 years now, just over, and it's evolved over that period to become a routine, a regular thing. So don't need the thoughts, just the time, you know, like when can I get round to doing these things? And there's certain times of year where they need to be done, but not an exact week or an exact weekend. Somewhere around that time these things need to be done. So we've got that to come. The bamboo will need a hack as well, and this hedge has got to be finished off. And I noticed I've got bulbs coming up. I've got the early daffodils are up through the leaves, and they're about this tall, about 6 or 7 inches tall. Those are the early daffodils, they'll be the first out. And when I blast those leaves off, which I'm hoping to do soon when I get a drier period, I suspect the snowdrops will be showing through as well. And they move quickly. Once the snowdrops break the soil, the leaves form pretty quickly, and then the flowers are out. They come up pretty quickly. The daffs take a lot longer to get up to size. But yeah, so there's some signs of life out there, just about. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. How long have we been running? Far too long, I expect. Goodness me. Yep, that'll do. Yeah. The longer the video is, the more time it takes to process and get up onto YouTube. But yes, so as I always do on the Sunday, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching my videos. Thanks for leaving comments. Thanks for doing the thumbs up. Those are all the things that are free, basically. There's no cost involved. The only thing that's involved with doing any of that is your time, which I'm grateful that you spend some of it watching my channel. Okay? But extra thanks for the memberships, obviously those that are members on YouTube or on the Patreon site. That's a small regular contribution to the channel to help out with supporting all this lot, because without all this lot there'd be nothing to film and there wouldn't be a channel, would there? So there is a relationship there. I'm not a rich person, you know, I haven't got a big swimming pool out in Florida and a great big house and 2 huge big cars. I haven't got all that. I only just about manage, so any help is gratefully received. So thanks for being members on one or the other places, And yeah, thanks for watching, thanks for the thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, it would be nice if you did so, because that again costs nothing. Literally, I know the word is subscribed and subscription implies paying some money, but it's just they chose a bad word basically, YouTube. To subscribe to a channel costs nothing. And if you don't switch notifications on, it's no different to when you weren't subscribed. So why not just do it? Yeah, why not just do it? Done it yet? And don't forget that thumbs up. And of course the hype. Don't waste your 3 hypes each week. They roll over on Sunday, so when you get up Monday morning you've got 3 nice new hypes to put against the channels and or videos, or both, could be one and the same, that you wish to add that little bit of extra support in. Again, it costs nothing, but it can only be done with the latest version of the YouTube app on a mobile phone. That's where it lives. So if you can't find it, you're probably not in a place where it lives, like on my laptop. Doesn't exist there. To use my 3 hypes, I have to get my phone out. And if I want to hype one of my videos, I have to go onto my other channel, because you can't hype your own channel. Yeah, which is, I think that's fair enough. But if you've got 2 channels, you can. Shh, don't tell them. What they don't know won't hurt them. Anyway, thanks for all the support. Thanks for watching. It is appreciated. Without the views, who am I talking to? It must seem odd to people who haven't done this sort of thing to stand talking to a camera. There's nobody around, you know, I'm just talking to nobody. But I know there will be people that can see this eventually. So it's like having a group of friends that aren't there yet, but they will be soon. Yeah, that'll do. And I don't know what I'm going to film this coming week. There certainly won't be videos every day, far from it. But, you know, we've still got Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday morning when I could possibly put something together. After that it's going to get thin on the ground, probably till after the Saturday when I take Hannah back. So, yeah, we'll have a break perhaps. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. And unusual for a Sunday, the bit on the end. I've been naughty. I've been talking about routines and things that become a regular occurrence and this, that and the other. And before I start filming on Sunday, what I should do is go and have a look at my memberships to see if I've got any new ones. And unfortunately, well, fortunately for me, but unfortunately for filming, I've got 2 new members that I hadn't seen. So apologies to being relegated to the bit on the end, but not forgotten. So we've got 2 new members, Susan Inglis and Barry Birch. These are special new members because they're not ordinary members, they've come in on the higher tiers. Thank you. That is most appreciated. And I will update my roll call on the end of this video, which I do on Sundays, where you get the cinematic view of all of my members and the new ones added on the end. So thank you very much for joining the happy band. Greatly appreciated. Right, now let's actually end the video.